Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank His Excellency Dr. Rashid to give me the opportunity to talk today, and also the Halim Business Congress to inviting me. So I'm going to try to add on what's been spoken during the panel about behavioral science and how we can use the way our mind works to influence people in consuming less energy and water. First of all, why this topic? So, if we give everyone on the planet the same amount of electricity and water we give to an average person in GCC, we need not one, but 5.5 planets. Just to give you what we are tackling. So if we want to be sustainable, we need to reduce our consumption by about 80%, which is massive. And today and every day when you go to conferences, everyone is talking about smart grid, efficient power plant, smart home, every new technology which is supposed to decrease this number. And that's all very great, and all this new technology will do a major and significant amount of this 80%. But there is another side of the coin, which is much more easier to change actually, which will bring much more benefit, is to change how much people just consume. So if you just change this number, you can do a significant part of this 80% for free. So if I just sum up, so we have sustainability, we need to decrease our energy and water consumption, and for this we need to change the behavior of people. And you might say, yeah, but I'm a utility, so I don't really care about people. I'm just caring about how much money I make and then how much electricity and water I'll sell. So actually there are many incentives. I'm not going to deep dive into this, but for utilities. So for instance, as a utility, you may have a regulatory incentive in many countries in the world to just decrease the consumption. So that's what you know by demand side management, for instance. Many countries, there are regulatory incentive and obligation for utility to decrease this one. But if I go just to the cost, for instance, a utility decreasing the amount of energy and water they sell, they can decrease the cost to serve by a certain percentage, which makes the utility actually more profitable, selling less. But there is another trick also, which is very important, and that's what has been mentioned during the panel, is that if you provide efficient technology to people, you and I, everyone, we'll just take an excuse and say, yeah, but I have more smarter energy or more smarter water or whatever. So you will tend to compensate this one by consuming more. That's what my colleague Sean explained by the licensing effect. You will tend actually to consume more, and you will compensate some savings you get from the technology. And the question is how much technology and how much utilities are doing today to change the way people behave? Well, not much. You have to know that basically you and I, everyone in this room, we spend less than 10 minutes every year looking at our utility bill or whatever information comes from your utility, which is 10 minutes window where the utilities are actually a chance to change how people behave. 10 minutes. So you need to use these 10 minutes very efficiently to make sure that people get at least some of the message. And typically what you get is a utility bill which is looking like that. So it's not very sexy, not very appealing, and it's most of the time paper. And at best, what you get is some initiatives to promote conservation tips, which are very great on their own, but are not necessarily conveyed to the consumer in a way that the consumer cares about it. So let me step back 1 minute and explain what is behavioral science. Behavioral science, so it's not about energy and water, it's just a general science. This field, behavioral science, is a field of research which has been granted actually several Nobel Prizes. So this is a field of research which impacts our everyday life. But I'll just give some example. There is one professor which is worldwide well known. He got a Nobel Prize for this work on behavioral science. And he wrote a book that explains that your brain, every brain in this room, works in two modes. So you have your brain that you think is you as a person. making conscious and rational decisions. That's maybe 10% of the time. So you yourself as a person, you make actual reasonable decision just 10% of the time. The rest of the time, there is another side of your brain which is working much faster than you as a person, making all these decisions. And all these decisions that this side of the brain is doing are biased. I'll just, so there are many principles, but I'm just gonna give you one example about framing. Framing is how you ask a question to someone. If I ask every one of you that you need to go to a surgery and you have 90% chances of survival, most of you will say, yes, I'll try. If I say the exact same sentence in the opposite way, that if I say to you that you have 10% chances to die, then much more people would just say, no, I won't go for it. It's exactly the same sentence, exactly the same meaning, but just the way to put the phrase, changing the people's response.